Hello there everybody and welcome. In this video I'm going to introduce to you 5 different strategies and ways of winning games in Against the Storm. They are all very powerful, compatible to be scaled up with cornerstones, and they are all really good add-ons to be used in addition to the orders that you will fulfill during each and every game. I don't consider these a specific strategy. They are always a part of your gameplay, and you should always try to fulfill them as good as you can. No, I'm talking about other tricks that you can do to fill up the rest of the remaining points, because the orders will never be enough to win a game alone on these. So the strategies that I'm introducing are also all combinable with each other, and ideally I'd recommend to try to aim for a mixture of 2 strategies or something like that, depending on the luck of your draft and fulfilling orders, and usually you'll drive that thing safely home with that. Now, let's get started with number 1, a very obvious and cool and powerful way of winning the game, producing so much resolve by making your people happy with food and services that you gain reputation out of that. It's pretty simple. You just have to put porridge and other things they like to eat into them. You just have to give them clothing and a couple of services and they are happy. Yeah, if it would be that simple. But this is still a way that can yield you a nice and easy victory. Here's a couple of tips and tricks how to pull it off effectively. First of all, check out what kind of commonalities your population has. There are always things that your population shares with one another. Also, there's another thing that you should be aware of. Every species has a different level, a different difficulty level of being pleased with just happiness. This is mirrored in the decadent level. So every species has a different level of decadency, and that just summarizes one thing: how quickly the bar rises when you create 1 point of reputation with happiness alone. That means the lizards are very decadent. That means they start with a very, very low resolve threshold for reputation to be gained, but after a couple of points, their demands skyrocket. So that means lizards are not really that good to win games with if you just want to go down the happiness way. We checked back with the beavers. I don't know if you realized it, but I'm going to showcase it one more time in case you missed it. The beavers have the lowest decadency level. They have only a decadency level of 2. That means these guys, they do have a pretty high base threshold, but once you have hit that, it's going to be very, very slow and little incremental steps upwards. That means the beavers will be very potent once you start pleasing them hard enough to get your way up there. Another thing is worth mentioning: you should always try to focus on a certain population group for this strategy to be most fructious, as you will gain more reputation the more people you got from that specific species being happy here. Also, of course, the favoring technique is very, very powerful and important, and another really important strategy for this kind of victory route is be aware that you can forbid complex foods for specific periods of time. So my favorite example for that is that services don't need to be allowed during the storm if your resolve is hitting the spot anyways. If you turn off the services during the storm season, you will receive the bonus that you will just not waste these materials. Of course, the problem is that people are not as happy as you see there. They even can get a little bit pissed about the fact that they get excluded about that. But if you can manage to avoid consuming services or even complex food, that's the hardest thing, but you can also theoretically do that, then you can even notch down your consumption lower during the storm phase, if possible, and then allow that stuff again during the wonderful times. And if you want to go totally bonkers and nuts, if you have enough material, you can even go and sacrifice stuff there and make people even happier. Or unemploy woodcutters during the time where you want to bump up some reputation points. With a combination of all these little tricks, you can lower the hostility level to very, very crazily, and you can chunk out a lot of reputation just by that, enough to actually win the game. Also keep an eye out for service buildings, as they have really interesting side effects, bumping up the resolve of people again and such. So I'm going to go into that topic a little bit deeper later down the road. So let's get on to number 2, because there's not that much more to add about the victory via happiness. The second point on my list I called box smashing and glades. So boxes contain reputation and amber. They require tools. This is an equation that you can use to actually win the game with. There's plenty of cornerstones around, and I had the luck to draw one for this example video here, that work around caches. So this one is one of my favorites for this playstyle. They work around caches and glades, I'm sorry. This one lowers the hostility for every opened cache, so we can lower the hostility, crank out more resolve, and even get the reputation bonus. The only thing we require in rough amounts for this kind of playstyle are tools. So this kind of playstyle is very good if you happen to have lots of minerals around, or you get the luck to draft yourself very early on one of these crazy farms that you can grow crystallized dew on, you know, the blue metal bars. Then you can totally opt into that way of victory. It's especially powerful if you happen to be lucky enough to stack silent looting maybe once or twice together. That's crazy. Once you have this several times and you start bashing up these crates regularly, it's really crazy. If you go down this way, also you should consider, but that's only really powerful with silent looting, if you could consider using the short-term gains of breaking open these and using the materials in there to kickstart your playstyle even further. Plays along nicely into playstyle number 1, you know. There's, for example, the 30 pies in there. That is a lot of happiness on the humans. And it also plays along nicely in the next way of winning that I'm going to explain in a hot minute. I just want to stay here as well. So the glade kind of victory is also important to note, as many dangerous glades, these events on them are, if you're able to play them and withstand them, more beneficial than actually dangerous. The dangerous glades are only dangerous if you don't have enough fuel. That's one of the standard things how you can resolve them. It's preferably coal, sea marrow, oil, you know, the refined fuels. Tools, these are also quite often requested on glades. And last but not least, luxury items for services like incense, scrolls, wine, beer. These things are also quite often requested in these glades. And if you are managing to have a stockpile of these goods, you can safely open these glades, as usually you will be encountering an event that will have exert some pressure on your population. Yes, via debuffs, but as long as you have the materials and the workforce, you usually get way more rewards out than you invest materials in, not to even talk about the huge amounts of territory that you gain. Just be wary about glade opening. I would only recommend using the glade style of playing if you are lucky enough to draw a couple of cornerstones that really play well into that. There's the cornerstones, I sadly don't remember the name of it. Here it is. Exploration Expedition is a wonderful example for that. So you get a +5 resolve bonus for every new glade discovered. This is an excellent cornerstone to get into that exploratory kind of play style. If you draw one of these, you totally can go and win that way. Okay, let's move over to number 3, the Trade Lord style. This is my personal favorite. I am totally in love with that playstyle. So, once you have the trading post, you will have visits from the trader, but you also unlock trade routes. Trade routes are refreshed each season, and you need provisions to send people off and sell the stuff there. These offers get, like I said, renewed every season, and you can buy more slots there. And once you upgrade the standing, that means the more value of amber has been flowing between you and those export cities, the more they'll pay for your goods. In short, this is an amber generation machine. If you get lucky enough to have a easy way of generating packs of provisions. There's even a cornerstone generating packs of provisions whenever a citizen enters your city. go for it. Also, a really prominent thing here, the herb garden, as you can use herbs to transform them directly into packs of provisions. This is amazing insofar as herbs aren't edible in their raw state, and they just make a super cheap way of packing up provisions. Now, there's cornerstones that give you straight up resolve per amount of ember sold, hostility reduction per trade routes and ember sold, or something like that. I can't remember it that closely anymore. You gain reputation straight up for just selling a certain amount of goods. There's a service building, the guild house here, that gives you extra global resolve for a sold amount of amber. So all in all, with the combination of trade route cornerstones and trading cornerstones in general, a heavy income of packs of provisions, you'll be ending up with a factory creating resolve points, reputation points, and lots of amber. And I want to emphasize here, this playstyle will allow you to buy tons of goods from the trader just as a side bonus, because you end up with lots of amber to work with. And that makes you very flexible, as you will, if you run into any shortages of swords, you can patch that hole just with money. This is a playstyle that works. I've won plenty of games with that by just fixing my problems with money, as you can even summon the trader early if you are well ahead in the impatience game. That isn't even too heavy. So this trade lord playstyle, like I like to call it, is amazing. And whenever you run into these cornerstone skills that allow you to gain benefit from trade routes, it is really something you should pay attention to, especially if you have easy access to the to provision packs, as this is one foolproof way of having a ton of fun, a ton of money, and a lot of goodness raining down on you. So number 4, the Rain Punk Heaven Way. So Rain Punk, you just put pipes in there. You need water, which can be extracted via rain collectors. Rain collectors only collect the water during the specific season, or you put geyser pumps on top of rainwater fonts. These produce faster water than the rain collectors. That's really important to note. Geyser pumps only have one color of production, but that goes like crazy, and the rain collector is more of a steady production. Either way, with Rain Punk, you install some pipes into the workshop, and it allows you to either let the workshop run faster or make the workshop exude happiness. This part here, the happiness part, is where you can totally play into strategy number 1, and that's only the start of it. The blight rot that you will be generating is the key to the actual strategy here, because there are cornerstones that focus around burning blight rot cysts. They are giving you either hostility reduction by burning blight rot cysts. I just sadly don't find it here. It could be that I haven't unlocked it on this one yet, but there's mainly 2 cornerstones to pay attention to for this strategy to go really bonkers. That's hostility reduction per amount of blight rot cysts burned, and coal gained per blight rot cysts burned. If you happen to stumble into both of them, you actually get into a feedback loop where you get rewarded for burning cysts, as the blight post fuel can be created out of coal again, so you actually get to burn those cysts for free and get to reduce your hostility while making all of your people happy with rainwater, or make your productions go crazy like that. The necessities here are as follows. I would strongly recommend playing this playstyle with foxes, as they are even happier if they are working with rain pumps, so you will have an easier way of playing into strategy number 1, which is, by the way, one that you should always have as a plan B on the side. Generating resolve via happiness is always a good plan. So foxes are really good, and beyond that, large workshops. Whatever large workshop you can draft is really good, and of course you need to pay attention to the geysers, because for a real rain punk strategy you need a couple of these rain punk geyser pumps to really get the ball rolling, as you will end up using a lot of rainwater, and You want to use as much rainwater as possible because you just want to have as many blight rot cysts spawning as possible because you get, as a matter of fact, big fat reward for them. If you manage to burn like enough blight rot cysts to reduce the hostility per year by 45, congratulations, you have frozen the time in terms of hostility gain by passing of time. So that's how powerful this strategy can be. By all means, you need to go really bonkers for that, but it is a possibility. I like it. So number 5 is the last one on the list. I call it structural happiness. So there's a couple of little tricks that you can use, and number 5 is a really nice subtle touch under the under everything. In addition to strategy number 1, a way of staying alive during the storms to be the trade lord or whatever. So that goes as follows. Racial specialized housing, for one thing, is amazing. It makes the people happier permanently. You can only gain a +3 for racial housing in total, but it is an unconditional bonus that can never decay unless the building gets destroyed, and it can happen, but it's a very rare thing, and it does not cost you anything more than just a couple of building materials. Okay, building materials are a very valuable resource. That's a given thing, but apart from that, this is one of the cheapest ways of gaining resolve just for a specific species. Goes really well if you want to cater, for example, one specific species in particular. Another thing in this strategy, cornerstones that increase the amount of housing room are amazing for this strategy, as the downside of these racial housing projects is that they can only house a lower amount of residents. These cornerstones counter that and make it a lot easier to get into that kind of gameplay. You need to unlock these, just like the Rain Punk, via the Citadel to have them permanently available, and I'd be strongly recommending not to draft them, because your drafts are worth other picks. Try to unlock them via the Citadel for this kind of playstyle, as this is so many times more powerful. You only get a very, very low amount of drafts. You see, only 9 different items plus the 3 you start with. That is really not a lot, and therefore try to unlock these houses as a permanent solution, because that's much more powerful. The other way around here, hearth upgrades. You have up to 3 upgrades there. The very first one is already producing resolve, very good for strategy number 1. The second one increases the global production speed, which is really amazing and should be tried to be achieved on every single hearth that you got. And the third one will be producing double yields. This is the hardest one, as it requires a service building in the vicinity of the hearth, so don't stress yourself out for the third level too hard. But the first, second levels, try to achieve that on every hearth, as there is even a cornerstone giving you a hostility reduction for every hearth on level 2. There's several cornerstones that reward you for hearths. So hearths are a playstyle. That's why I call this a structural happiness strategy. So every single hearth you build up also generates an extra hostility reduction per se, for just burning, and therefore this is another really, really powerful way in winning the game, as it will make your people happier. It is nevertheless really important to stress out that you will need a fuel production for that. Just burning wood won't cut it at some point. You won't make it just with wood alone if you want to have more than 2 hearths burning at all times, because this is just too hungry. Without cornerstones or other helpers, you won't be making it out. So focus a side production of fuel, be it oil, coal, or however you want to pull it off, but you need something that you can put into and makes you able to stop burning wood at these, because this is just inefficient and will burn you out at some point. Another way of building up structural happiness is these service buildings. I already went a little bit past that in the while I was talking about point number 1, but I want to stress it out here a little bit more. There are lots of bonuses attached to these service buildings, and some of these fit to some strategies better or worse. I strongly recommend looking on these bonuses when you have an opportunity to draft them and check out how well it fits to the rest of your strategy, as some of these service buildings are outright game changers for certain strategies to just get your game going. Therefore, these are really, really important. My favorite example for game-changing service buildings is the clan hall, as it produces 100% increase of yield from all your camps, except the woodcutters. That means you have such an insane boost of productivity all of a sudden on all those collector camps that you will really notice that. So whatever you play, check out the service buildings that are lying on your way. Like, for example, here I was super lucky to find that guild house, which is a real powerhouse in the trade lord strategy. Like, the guild's welfare is amazing on its own, and then you even get another bonus that gives you faster arrival of traders. Like, what would I want more if I wanted to build a trade empire? So these three things are, for me, the most common things that you can use to put up some structural happiness into your city. There is, of course, I bet more things, more strategies, more ideas, but I hope this will help you out to win more games, as the combination of these 5 strategies has pretty much led me to a 80 to 90% win rate all the way up to prestige level 12, 15. That's when I start losing more with these things, but alongside the way, this worked out really decently for me, and I'm really happy to hear back from you guys what you would be improving about that, what you consider that I've missed out, or outright new strategies that I totally missed there. I mean, I don't think that I have discovered everything on my own. So I'm looking forward to hear back from you. Leave a thumbs up if you consider this a cool video, so the algorithm knows so too. And leave a subscription if you'd be so kind. I'd be very, very happy. There's a couple of links in the description box down below, leading to my Discord server, my Twitch channel, where I stream every Sunday evening in the Middle European time zone, and of course there's Patreon, PayPal, and Buy Me a Coffee. And I'd be super delighted if you'd give them a look, and a big, big thanks to all the supporters. You guys are really, really amazing, and I deeply appreciate what you're doing, because you're making me capable of making these wonderful videos. And a big thanks to you, especially you watching this video right now, because that means you went with me through all the ads and all that, and I appreciate. I hope you had a great time, and I hope you're having a great time this day, whatever you're doing, or good night, or whatever. See you soon, and bye-bye.